Hi, this is your host of Legacy Her Way, Tanya Hendrix, and a special note about today's episode. Our guest today is Tammy Brennan. She is the mother of Melissa Brannen, who was kidnapped at the age of 5 back in 1989. We will talk about Melissa's disappearance, talk about that case. So if you have a situation that may trigger some emotions, just be careful. These are some things we're going to be talking about. Also, this podcast is being released on a Monday. Normally, we release podcasts on Tuesday, but to honor Melissa, I wanted to release this episode on April 13th, which is her birthday. And so in 2026, her birthday falls on a Monday. So we are releasing this episode a day early in honor of Melissa. I hope as you listen to this podcast, you will say a prayer for Tammy as she still navigates missing Melissa, as does the rest of the family. All right, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
When is the last time you hugged your child? Today's guest lives through every parent's worst nightmare. On December 3rd, 1989, her 5-year-old daughter, Melissa, was abducted from a Christmas party. That was the last time today's guest, Tammy Brennan, hugged her daughter. I said she lives through every parent's worst nightmare because the nightmare isn't in the past tense. She lives in those haunting questions even today, 36 years later. The issue of missing and exploited children is near and dear to my heart. As some of you know, I spent a number of years volunteering, working with the missing and exploited agency, looking for missing and exploited children. So this conversation is really near and dear to my heart. During the time I did that volunteer work, I spoke with a number of parents. I did the intake for people when their child went missing or loved one went missing to gather all the relevant information to help with the search. And I had been haunted as just a volunteer and someone who hasn't experienced a missing child. I've been haunted by the inability to help a mother know where her child is laying her head down at night, or even if the child's still alive. Welcome to Legacy Her Way. This is the podcast where we explore how women define and build legacy on their own terms. I'm your host, Tanya Hendrix, and legacy isn't just about what we leave behind someday. It's about the choices we're making right now, even when those choices are kind of forced upon us through some type of tragedy, as you want to hear about today. So legacy is about who we're building for, what we're building and preserving, and how we kind of create peace of mind and margin along the way. Today's conversation with Tammy Brennan brings a story that is shaped by tragedy, but also advocacy and the ability to pivot. You're going to hear about her pivoting later in life. Today's episode is a heavy topic, but as someone who has worked with missing children and really worked with missing families, it's a topic we need to address and discuss, and we need to celebrate Melissa's life. So we'll spend some time talking about Melissa, but we're also going to spend some time talking about what Tammy is doing these days in 2026 as she has pivoted her career later in life. So today's guest is Tammy Brennan. She spent 40 years in corporate accounting. She became a CFO and an expert government contracting official. But her real love has always been nursing, health, and helping people improve their quality of life. She walked away from her career to open a wellness clinic here in Huntsville. Tammy is the owner of BV Medical Solutions in Huntsville, offering weight loss and holistic care. Welcome to the show, Tammy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I am glad that you are here with us today to talk about Melissa. We're going to talk about Melissa. We're going to talk about what you're doing these days. But I really want to start this episode with just tell us a little bit about Melissa. What was she like as a child?
Oh, she was my heart. She was my life. She was very, very happy child, always an easy child. She was very shy. So this is, somewhat of an anomaly that this happened, but she wanted to be a fashion designer that particular week. She'd been at work with me and filled our whiteboards with all of her designs. And,
Mhm.
the week before it had been, a singer. So, who knows what she would have ended up doing. But she just was a really sweet kid that was very thoughtful about other people.
Mhm.
She was always concerned when somebody wasn't happy or wasn't feeling well. She was just a really, really good kid.
Mhm. Well, tell us what happened, December 3rd, 1989.
We had gone to a neighborhood Christmas party. I lived in an apartment complex at the time, and I was a single parent. And so we had gone. There was a Santa, and all the kids were there, and games and cookies and all of that sort of thing. And we got ready to leave, and building. And I said, "Sure, go ahead." And I hugged my friends and got my coat on and then turned around looking for her, and she wasn't there. She wasn't in the bathroom, she wasn't outside, she wasn't anywhere. And it was later determined that there was a new employee at the complex as a landscaper, and he had been there paying an unusual amount of attention to the children. He had at one point offered to take my daughter to the bathroom, which I obviously
Oh,
refused.
wow.
And so, uh, it was determined that he took her through the maintenance, room. There was one of those full rollout windows and took her out there over a fence to his car, and she's never been seen.
I wanna go back and set the scene for a moment because I did some research on Melissa's story in preparing for today's podcast, and I just want parents to understand, I mean, you were not an inattentive parent. From what I read, she'd been sitting in your lap moments before this
Mm.
happened, and you got up to leave, and he was actually sitting next to you, wasn't he?
And not at that time.
Mm.
In fact, I wasn't quite sure where he was at that time, but he had been at our table for a good portion of the evening, yes.
Okay. So you realize, I mean, you get up, it takes you what, a minute to get your coat on, say goodbye to people, and then she's gone. Is that kind of
Probably less than that. I mean, it literally was I took the coats off the rack, she asked for the potato chips, I hugged probably 2 people, put my coat on, and turned around. So that's, uh, less than a minute.
Mhm.
And, someone told me, because, I blamed myself for a long time, that if somebody wants your child, they're gonna get them. There's
Yes.
nothing, you cannot be vigilant enough unless I suppose if you have them on a leash 24/7. Um, other than that, there's really no way to prevent it from happening if some evil person wants your child.
And that I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that you have come to that realization. I do think a lot of parents do blame themselves, and that's why I wanted to stress that even, parents who are very diligent, it can still happen because evil people will do evil things, and it will be difficult to get evil people to stop, and unless someone else catches them in the act, like, stops them immediately because evil people are gonna find a way to do evil things, and I'm a firm believer when a child is abducted, that is evil personified in that moment, in that space and time, and in that person that did it. Oh, you, from what I read, you're actually the one who found the open window, is that correct?
Yes, mhm. I thought perhaps she was in the bathroom, someone was in there, so I knocked, I didn't get a response, that's not unusual for my daughter to not respond.
Mhm.
She's very shy. She had been sitting in my lap the whole evening. But when the person came out and it wasn't her, I started looking outdoors. There was a pool, but that door was locked and went through, which was over by the chips. I went and looked, everybody was immediately on alert. And I just
Yeah,
went down the hallway. The bathrooms were in and the maintenance room was at the end and there was a window wide open. And, we called the police right away.
okay. So, one of the things I've again, parents need to know that it happens quickly. Um, when I worked with Class Kids Foundation, one of their taglines, I guess you could say, was "A child disappears a mile a minute." Because once that child gets in a car, they're gone. I mean, it's literally a mile a minute. So it takes just a quick second, half a second even, for a child to be abducted. Do you have any words of advice for parents? Like, what are some things that parents may be able to do? I mean, even though we've already said evil's gonna happen, like someone who's got
Right.
evil intent will act on that, but are there some things that parents can do to kind of help, protect their children?
Well, I think speaking with the child is probably the first and foremost, that they know, the whole stranger danger thing, the whole, um, if somebody approaches you, scream, run, you don't have to, uh, be subservient to an adult that you don't know, that no adult should touch you in any way, take you from your parent. Um, there are no puppies in the car. Melissa was only 5, so sometimes that's a harder message to get through to younger children.
Yeah.
But if a lot of times, whether they're in a store or wherever they are, if they pitch a fit, throw themselves down on the ground or whatever, they're gonna be noticed, and the person 9 times out of 10 is gonna turn around and walk away because they don't want to be there being accused of anything or being
Mhm.
looked at.
Right.
So, that is probably the number 1 thing that you could teach your child. Number 2 is their phone number in case for whatever reason they get away or they see a police officer, tell them, you can't approach police officers, tell them your name and your phone number.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing is kind of post, but when Melissa disappeared, which was a long time ago, and it was, as you mentioned, in its infancy, um, although, it had happened in the past, but the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children had started, they had a national database, they started having procedures and some of the other things, and then they had done identification kits, where and I had one on Melissa where take a picture, get their fingerprints, etcetera. But my father was an avid videographer. He'd gotten a video camera and they were new and taken a lot of video of her, and it was recognized when that video was put on, the news and other outlets that you could get, a better sense of who she was and
Mhm.
how she behaved, how she walked. So even if you cut their hair or change their hair color, or if there are mannerisms or ways they speak,
Mhm.
if you have them speaking. So, after Melissa's disappearance and that exposure, they started adding video, uh, videography to the fingerprint packages. Just a quick interview. I did thousands of them. What's your name? What's your favorite thing? Just get them to say a few words,
Mhm.
and move around, walk a little bit, and while you're talking to them, and that way you have something ready to put, uh, brief, 30 seconds, whatever it is, on when people are looking for it. And the video has actually been very successful in finding children.
The kits are so important. I mean, I think the videos obviously are as well, because I think that, again, it gives people a sense of who, like, in your case, who Melissa was, but also just I think it connects the viewer a little bit better when it's not just a static photograph, it's the actual video. So I think there's a great
Right.
connection there. But I do encourage parents to do the kits. I mean, my law firm gives them out. We go to different events and give out child ID kits because of my experience working with the kids. And
Right.
sometimes the parents are like, "Oh, what is this? Why are you doing this?" Because it's almost some people think it's a morbid thought, but it's just
Yeah.
preparing. It's just having
Right.
that preparation done, and you have to stay on top of it. When you have the kit, you don't need to put a picture in there today and then never change it. And you gotta update the pictures, update the information, and we all have cell phones. We're all taking photographs of kids and grandkids all the time, and make sure you keep a couple of recent photos, like really good photos of children, and keep them updated so that if a child goes missing, you've got something current or fairly current to give to the police. That's just,
And you have their fingerprint. You know, it could be an accident or, lots of different things, or they can go to a particular place and where a crime has been committed and pull fingerprints, and then they're gonna match. They're gonna match that child had been there and whatever. So just, having the fingerprints is really important as well.
Yes, indeed. Well, I want to finish up with Melissa's story a little bit because I know someone was convicted. What was the period of time between when she went missing and this person was arrested?
It was probably about 3 months. I ran into him in the wild, and which was not good. So I think they decided to arrest him sooner than they would have otherwise. Um, that's another story. Um, but it was probably about a year until he was convicted. He was given a sentence. He was in his 20s, and so he was given a sentence of 50 years because they thought if when he got out in his 70s, he wouldn't be a threat. What they didn't know is that administratively, the max that was 36 years, which puts him in his 50s and perfect age of a pedophile and predator. And so in the Commonwealth of Virginia, anyway, we got that law changed so that juries understand what the administrative time is and not just the sentence. And so Caleb actually was released 3 years ago because he had served the maximum amount that they could hold him. We did try to get him civilly committed, tried several things to keep him behind bars, but it didn't work. However, a year and a half after he was released, I was contacted by a mother who had through work, he had befriended this 2 families and that had young children. And he didn't report himself like he was supposed to. He pretended to be a military vet that couldn't talk about his past, whose wife had died from cancer, and he had just moved there for new memories and a new start. And he befriended purposefully the 2 families that had small children. One of them was a 5-year-old daughter. Tried to babysit them, all kinds of things, offered date nights, and the mother of one of the children decided to put the app on her phone about sex offenders and, notify you if they're nearby, that app. And she put it on at work, and it said just one standing 600 feet away from you.
Oh,
And
wow.
gave him his name, and she found out who he was, did research, started reflecting on odd behavior, contacted me. I'm not sure why she didn't contact the police, but she did contact me. And I put her together with the police and an investigation, and now thankfully he's back in prison.
Good.
But as you see, months after getting out, he started grooming new victims. So it's really not a rehabilitative crime, and it's really not something that we need to be giving short sentences to.
Correct. I prosecuted. My first job out of law school was as a prosecutor, and my specialty was prosecuting child sex cases. And the number of people who reoffended, so they would go to prison for something, for a sex case, a crime against a child, and then they get out and reoffend. It is something that is not rehabilitative. And they do this whole grooming process that you talked about, where they find someone they think may be vulnerable. A lot of them prey on single women, saying, hey, I can offer these babysitting services. You go work, don't worry about this. And so parents just need to be on alert and check the apps, check the sex offender registry in your area. You can go to your state website, or most counties also have a sex offender registry. You can check that, but be aware there's always the first time to get caught. Those registries only show the people who've actually been convicted. not people who have been able to fly under the radar. So always be vigilant and aware. All right. So, Tammy, not everyone can relate to your story of having a child abducted. And I want to, before I go forward, I do want to note that Melissa's never been found, has she?
No.
Okay. So not everyone can relate to your story. Not everyone has been through what you've been through, thankfully, but everyone has been through some type of trauma, tragedy, something that's just brought us to our knees.
Right.
How, when you were going through, especially those first 3 months before he was arrested, I mean, and obviously now to this day, you still have no real closure as to what happened with Melissa, what happened to her.
Legacy Her Way is proudly sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer because legacy isn't just about wealth, it's about protecting your family, your vision, and everything you've worked for. Build boldly, preserve it wisely.
How have you gotten through the day to day?
Well, my faith became much stronger that year, thanks to a firefighter that I met. And so I have, been through several counseling and theocratic counseling, and God's given me a peace about my daughter. And of course, I will never know what happened. The worst thing is to sit there and imagine, go through the potential scenarios. The more you learn, like I worked with the National Center, you learn a lot of things. It's devastating to even allow yourself to think those things. So God has given me peace about her. Um, Giving back and helping the number of kids and children that, some of them were acquaintances of hers previously, and others are just strangers that would write and say, look, somebody approached me, or somebody said something, or it was something very similar to what happened to Melissa. And I thought about that. I thought about Melissa, and I ran, or I screamed, or a parent that radar went up and exited the situation. So that gives me a lot of feeling of, at least her life meant something. The laws that we've had changed, I've helped with Amber Alert and different programs. That gives me some, again, meaning to her life that, and perhaps God saved her from something worse down the road. I don't know, and I won't know um, until I meet him. So, helping others, volunteering. I've been an advocate for children ever since. I've been a youth leader. I've been a foster parent. I've been a step parent. I've worked with schools. I've worked with the identikits, like you were talking about. I done a lot of things in trying to make her life have meaning and it not happen again. And so for me, that's really my driven purpose in helping other children um, not have to experience what she did.
Well, I appreciate your advocacy. It really has made a difference. Any parent that goes through what you've been through to then turn around and help others, it's hard, number one. But you have really, I think you probably, I know you had, not probably, I know you've made Melissa proud in using that tragedy and that evil to turn it for good and helping others and helping other parents and other children, because you have saved lives. Melissa's story has saved lives because of that. What hope can you pass along to parents or anyone going through some type of tragedy?
Well, hope is a Pandora's box, right? So I believe, if you have faith, I believe that God works all things for good. And I believe that he has put us all here for a reason. And he knows what he has planned for us. And we while it's not fair to me, I didn't get to raise my child. I didn't get to see her get married or have grandchildren or any of the other things, and it's very tragic for me. But there's always there's always good that can come of it. There are people that you're gonna meet. There are things you're gonna do. There are impacts that you're gonna have that you wouldn't have otherwise that are gonna be very fulfilling, in your life. And look, there was a child that was abducted from LA 6 years ago at 5 years old that was found just last week in South Carolina.
Wow.
So it happens.
Mhm.
Um, it I don't know the circumstances around that story, but it does happen. There is hope, and as long as, um, you know, you have the identikit, they know their phone number, they, know who they are, that you've made them aware, you've done all that you can do, and in some cases, it is productive.
Before we move on to your career pivot, I want to touch on two things that you brought up in the last few minutes. One is you mentioned about somebody has a radar. And I do want to point out for women, a lot of times, I think we have a better intuition than men on a lot of things.
Mm.
But sometimes we're taught to ignore it, or because we can't say, okay, I have a bad feeling about this person. You can't put your finger on the reason. You're like, it's just crazy. I can't put a reason on why I have a bad feeling. So you ignore it. You're not going
Or
to
you don't
always,
wanna be
I'm sorry.
or you don't wanna be impolite.
Correct. You don't want to be impolite. Well, mama's being polite. You have to be. I mean, you're not going to always get a bad feeling about somebody. You're not going to, that radar's not going to always go up. But when it goes up, listen to it. Listen to that gut instinct because you have. And whether, those of us of faith may say it's the Holy Spirit prompting us, others may just say it's intuition. We've got it and we need to listen to it and not ignore it. So that's one point that I really want to stress. But also the kids that we talked about, I believe, and I haven't checked recently, but I believe the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has those for free that parents can go to or anyone can go to and order. Do you know if that's correct?
That's
Okay.
that is correct.
And their website is missingkids.org. So very easy to remember, but I'll have the website in the show notes. So anybody can go and get those kits. Okay. So Tammy, when all this happened, you were in Virginia. You're now in Huntsville. And as I mentioned in your bio, you pivoted after about 40 years as in the corporate world. You pivoted, and you now have a new business. So tell us about that.
Okay. I opened a wellness clinic. We were downtown until recently. Now we're on Bob Wallace.
Okay.
We do doctor prescribed weight loss, massage, IV therapy. We do some aesthetics with RF microneedling. We do NAD plus and Smorlin micro injections. We say that wellness is a journey. And what we want to do is help you improve your wellness and your quality of life. I know too many grandparents that can't get on the floor with their grandkids, or don't want to go to Disney World or whatever the situation might be, because they're tired, they can't walk, or etc. So that's really what we work around. What we're looking for, or professional women that want to look and feel younger and have that energy. We have several programs. So we are having a grand reopening next Wednesday.
Okay.
And we'd love to have you come between 3 and 6, talk about some of our programs, just have some wine and some little hors d'oeuvres and just chat with us about what we do offer. And then on the 1st, the following Wednesday, we're having an aesthetic event. So Botox, PRP filler, RF microneedling. Both of those events will have prizes and giveaways, and we just get to know us because we feel like our clients are family. And we've expanded our services so that we can kind of be a one-stop shop. If you're not losing weight because you're stressed out and you're a caregiver, like I currently am, It could be your cortisol levels. So we have massage, we have IV therapy, we have, lots of different options. And, we just love for you to stop by one of those days because we just moved and we love our new space and we love our clients and any new clients that would like to come just enhance their wellness, or again, taking care of themselves
Uh-huh.
because you do have to take care of yourself. And a lot of that helps. If you feel better about yourself and how you look, then you tend to have more focus, more energy, more confidence in your job. So we just love for people to stop by and say hello. I've always been passionate about nursing and wellness and various opportunities that way. I've struggled myself,
Uh-huh.
with weight and health and other issues, mobility. So um, it's something that, I found solutions for, and I wanna share them. We try to make it as affordable as possible because we're just really want people to experience a healthier future as we, live to be older. We want you to live that with quality of life.
What prompted you to pivot and go into this field and just open your own business?
Um, well, the business that I was at was trying to get me to move to Montgomery, which I didn't wanna do. I had moved to Florida once already. My parents were here. I spent a lot of time in Montgomery. I was a single dog mom. And, I, just decided that I was going to leave and look for something else. And when I was looking at various revenue streams that I could do, I came across somebody speaking about um, non medical people owning these medical businesses and the partnerships and things that could be offered, and um, researched it and decided that this is this is what I wanted to do. This is what I could be passionate about, and this is how I could help.
What was there a belief about yourself that had to shift or change for you to go from corporate to owning a medical business?
Oh, goodness. I have never thought of myself as an entrepreneur or, anyone that is, a salesperson. Uh, I can negotiate the contracts after they're sold. Um, I can hire the salespeople. I've just never, and I'm fairly risk averse.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I just I had to believe that what I was doing, was going to be impactful and
Uh-huh.
was something that people were gonna wanna do, and um, that I was meant to do it.
Uh-huh.
And so, and that I could learn or acquire the skills through myself or someone else in order to make it work.
We all have the power to figure it out. Um, and I think that's what you're going through is figuring out. I mean, like you said, you could hire the salespeople, but being the entrepreneur, getting it off the ground is a lot of work, and you have to be all the things initially. So, you're figuring all those things out, and you have that ability to figure it out. So, I applaud you for that. If you could
My
go back,
friends say Yeah. No, my friends say that I'll say something commonly, and I don't recognize that I say it, but I say, "Make it happen." And, I have to make it happen, and so that's they wanted to buy me a T-shirt that's that's
how far into the entrepreneurial journey are you? When did your business open?
2.5 years ago.
Okay. So about the same time as of my law firm. If you could go back and give yourself advice about planning or preparation, what would you say to yourself?
I would say don't take on as much as I did as quickly as I did, that it should be a more gradual process and some things should be more firm before reaching out to the next thing. I tend to be a somewhat impatient person,
Mhm.
and, you need to build on a foundation instead of, getting it all spread out and not being as strong as it needs to be.
Having said that, because I'm the same way. I would like hit the ground running, go. But was there something, and maybe it was just you avoided or delayed starting the business, but was there something that you avoided or delayed around your money situation or business or planning the business that the delay cost you?
Yes, I am a CFO by trade, and so I should have, been a lot better about the money and about, paying attention to it. Um, I I got it to a break-even point, and then I needed some income, so I became the CFO of the National Institute of Aerospace, and for a little over a year, and, um, didn't do some things, didn't take some steps, didn't take some steps in personnel, didn't take some steps in products, didn't take some steps in procedures that I should have taken earlier.
Mhm,
Um, but I didn't do that. I got distracted, and delayed in a lot of things, and, some personnel decisions, some different things that I should have done much earlier than I did.
mhm. Well, I have a few more questions for you, but before I get to those questions, I want you to tell people how they can reach out to you. How can they find you? How can they work with you?
Okay, so we are just moved to Bob Wallace,
Mhm.
right across from Haley Furniture in the Home Center. The name is BV Medical Solutions, and our website is BV, that's Bravo Victor, MEDSOL.com. And our phone number is 256-770-0565.
There will be a link in the show notes to the website, so everybody can scroll to the show notes and link there. Really, if you're ready to move forward and working with, or just find out more information about BV, I laughed. You said Bravo Victor. I was like, yes, you've been in the the government military world.
And I'm a military brat, so
For those of you listening who aren't around, who's not in the Huntsville area and don't hear all these acronyms and things like that all the time, that's what we hear all the time here. Okay, so what does legacy at this stage in your life? You've had a
Mhm.
career, you've pivoted, you volunteered, you've worked with missing children, and their families. What does legacy mean to you at this stage of your life?
I think for women, legacy can mean a lot of different things, whether it's leaving behind, whether it's current impacts. But I think that at its core, for women anyway, it's compassionate, it's driven, and it's purposeful.
Mhm,
So those things that you feel passion for, that are empathetic and or compassionate towards others, um, whether it's your family or, your church family or people in general or a certain sector of people, children, homeless, addicts, whatever it may be, um, that your legacy um, can show up by your efforts in that area. Those of us with faith call it kingdom impact.
mhm.
But I think that our our legacy is what people are going to say and think about us when we're gone or when we're here and they're talking about us, right? Um, so for some people, it's that wealth that they build for the future, and for others, it's our kingdom impact.
What would you say is Melissa's legacy?
Oh, goodness. Melissa has a lot of things behind her legacy. Um, she has, so Melissa's the first case that included forensic evidence
Wow.
in any trial at all. The very first one, that's another story, but there was an FBI analyst that found 'cause there was a lot of circumstantial evidence, fibers, hairs, all of that. And they made the very first case based on that. So
Wow.
your CSI units and all of that came from Melissa's case. They actually teach her case at Quantico. There's an age progression unit at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children named after her. So that is the technology that, and through donations, that takes a child at 5 and ages them to 10 and 15, and then all the way up into an adult and into adulthood to allow agents to, have a better idea of what they're looking for 5 years later. I'm sure that that had something to do with the girl that was found last week. Her story has been told over and over again internationally through the National Center and other outlets. Like I said, there are children and there were adults that have reached out to me or the National Center saying, my child is safe now because I heard this story. The usage of video, her story and my testimony were integral to getting the Amber Alert passed. I had other testimonies, congressional testimonies that I've done. I lived in DC at the time, so I kind of got more involved, having been in the nexus of where all of that is than I am now. But I still periodically do TV interviews. Did one a couple months ago. So I think awareness, safety, some people's lives, some legislation, forensic units. Not that it wouldn't have potentially happened through some other case, but it happened in Melissa's. So I do. Even the Commonwealth attorney who died last year, his part of his story and his legacy was Melissa's case and how it was done, and one he's never forgotten. He had never forgotten about, and so I think it's led cold case units. It's led some legislature in the Commonwealth of Virginia about cold cases and DNA usage, and it's tremendous legacy. Her legacy is tremendous and has been very fruitful, and for that I'm grateful.
Well, it has. It is quite the legacy for a 5-year-old, and no one wants to go through what you went through, but you have given, and Melissa has given people hope through your tragedy. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing Melissa with us. I think it's important that we know about Melissa. So thank you for sharing her with us and a little bit about her. For those of you listening, thank you for listening in, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. You can keep hearing stories like Tammy's and Melissa's. So be sure to subscribe to Legacy Her Way so you don't miss another episode. And I will see you in the next conversation. Bye.